Bonjour everyone and welcome to Casser les Lignes preview season episode or season preview episode, depending if you want to speak English or not. Jeremy Magan, the host, and Baptiste, le classic pod with me. How are you, Baptiste?
I'm great, thanks, Jeremy. All
We
good.
we've recorded those 4 episodes in all transparency yesterday, and then since then Paris Saint-Germain Nantes play the I was going to call that the Super Cup, the Trophée des Champions, and Paris Saint-Germain won 4-0 against Nantes. And there was one last episode that we wanted to do. That I'm actually glad that we waited for that game to be played before we do it. It's the mailbox episode, excuse me, answering the question that were asked when we asked for participation to those preseason pods, and we have 3 tweets that we want to answer to, and some very good question. We're going to jump on it straight away. You see them on your screen if you're watching on YouTube. The first question comes from Molo. I think his Twitter is Baby Damage, if I'm not mistaken. He says that he has a few questions. The first question is, which team do we think would give Paris Saint-Germain a decent challenge for the league? So we've answered that question sort of on the 4th episode of the season preview, which will drop, if I'm not mistaken, on Friday. But I guess to sum up what we discussed also in that episode, Baptiste, in your opinion, which team is the best place to be a real rival to Paris Saint-Germain? Clearly not Nantes.
Yeah, no, I think we've agreed on that. I mean, Monaco looked the best built side. They don't. I mean, every side has a weakness, but theirs feels manageable, and they have really a ton of attacking talent. So I think they're definitely the ones that you would be looking to. I think I had them fourth. I think you had them third, but Lyon, you can't discount Lyon if they go on a good run and everybody at the club actually pulls together. Then again, the talent is there, the depth is there, certainly from an attacking standpoint. So those would be the 2 teams that I think would be able to challenge. As to whether they can do over a whole season, considering the superstars at PSG, that's a bit difficult. But we've said, we were surprised when Lille won a couple of years ago. We were surprised when Monaco won. That means it can happen, and certainly Monaco and Lyon would be the 2 favorites, I think.
Yeah, and I think they've both added some strength to their squad, but some winning strength. Minamino has won everything or almost everything with Liverpool. Tolisso at Lyon, coming from Bayern, has also seen what winning every single year means. So it's probably going to be very good for their locker room. And I think last but not least, Paris Saint-Germain. If you look at the starting 11. You can probably name 7-8 players who are going to be in the quarterfinal of the World Cup. Lyon and Monaco, it's not going to be the case. So with Ligue starting right after the end of the World Cup, I think the first match day after the World Cup is Boxing Day, so 26th of December. That could be a factor that could impact Paris Saint-Germain. I mean, the player who loses the final or the player who completely messes out their World Cup, that could mess up the second part of the season. I think Paris Saint-Germain is probably more inclined to have this sort of issue than Monaco and Lyon, who seem to have, I guess, obviously a bit less pressure on their shoulder than what Paris Saint-Germain have, and Lyon doesn't even have any European Cup to play, so they have all the time in the world to rest.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, there will be a clear first half of the season and a clear second half. I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but post World Cup, depending on how their World Cups go, how fresh physically and mentally will the likes of Neymar and Messi be, especially Messi, considering he'll only have 6 months left on his contract and will be gone after that. And Neymar, we never know what we're going to get, but certainly he seems to have identified the 2022 World Cup as his sort of last swan song. So it'll be interesting to see what their mindset will be post World Cup, especially if you have a few hiccups in the league and the crowd starts to turn on you a little bit and stories start to come out of lack of professionalism for Neymar, small niggling injuries for the likes of Verratti as well. So there's always a scenario where things go quite wrong at PSG and things go well at Monaco or Lyon or even Rennes or Marseille, right? Although for Marseille, I think it's looking tricky at the moment. But yeah,
Salt to the wound.
it's certainly not impossible, that's for sure. But it would be more a case of self-inflicted damage at PSG combined with a otherworldly season from one of those contenders.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be, as we said that on that episode, it'll be Paris Saint-Germain losing it, maybe even more than somebody else winning it. You talk about post World Cup. I think pre World Cup it'll also be interesting to see when's the cutoff date for I don't want to be injured for the World Cup. Is that going to be game one or is that going to be throughout like September or October? But I think it's going to take one important player to get injured for all the other players who have their on the World Cup to probably just go back in first gear and not give their all because they all obviously want to shine on the bigger stage. The second question from Molo was which young players will be keeping our eyes on. There's plethora of young talent in Ligue 1, and that's called the League of Talent for a reason. I definitely invite everybody who's listening to this pod to go and check the threads that you've done, Baptiste. They're really complete, and you talk about every single team. And for every single team, you kind of talk about the one to watch. So there's a few answers in those threads to start with. I'll give you my three players, and then we can give me your three, and then we'll talk about them all. I think Malo Gusto from Lyon it's a clear confirmation season for him. There's no more Dubois in front of him, so he's going to have the keys to the truck, and the right wing is his. Apparently, he started the preseason really well. It's going to be a matter of can he be performant for a whole season? I think it's going to be a real test for him. We know his talent. It's about confirming it. I've also put Kamaldeen Sulemana from Rennes. He joined last year, scored 4 goals in the first 10 rounds, and then after that, maybe got extinct, but also Rennes really fired of all cylinders, and they kind of found their starting 11 and kept it that way. And then the last one that I put is Tige Dalinga, the striker recruited by Toulouse. He scored 32 goals in 37 games last year in the Netherlands second division, which clearly is not the level of Ligue 1, but also clearly he's got a sense for scoring goals. So, seeing a player like this coming to a promoted side is always interesting, and hopefully he'll be adding some much needed striking talent in France. Which 3 players or 2 or 1 did you have in your list, Baptiste?
So I've got sort of 4. I've got 2 that are probably more in the sort of Gusto mold that people know about, and then 2 that are lesser known. So the first 2 are Castello Luqueba and Quentin Merlin. So for me, Luqueba, my view was he was the young player of the season last year, even ahead of Saliba, just because he never played any Ligue 1 football before and just became defensive leader at Lyon. And he's looked really sharp apparently in preseason. So at 19, he's just very, very impressive and very progressive with the ball at his feet as well. And then Quentin Merlin, I discovered him sort of second half of last season when I think he started to play more. I think he can play anywhere across, on the left-hand side, but I liked him as a left wing back. He's got a wicked left foot, great delivery, and super enthusiastic. So they're sort of the 2 that already have had sort of full seasons under their belts. And then the other 2 are another Lyon guy, Johan Le Penant, who's just joined from Caen. I love those kinds of signings, 19-year-old who's already had sort of 1 to 2 full seasons in the lower tier, playing for a good side in Caen. Coming in, seems like an elegant, smart midfielder. So I'm hoping he'll get some game time because there are a lot of people there at Lyon. And then the final one is a bit of a gamble. So Cais Ruiz, who...
Yes, he's back.
who's back, yeah, already. So he played about 7 or 8 games in Ligue 1 under Thomas Tuchel, and then was dropped by Pochettino. Then randomly moved to Barcelona, failed to settle there, and is now at Auxerre. So a bit of a fall from grace, but he's still very young. He's about to turn 20. I'd like to think he'll be hungry, and obviously there was some talent there to start with if he was able to start a few games for PSG on the Tuchel. So they're the players I'm quite excited to see.
Yeah, for those who don't remember, Kaisa Chili it was Xavi Simons before Xavi Simons was here, right? He
Mm.
was this young talent from Paris Saint-Germain that was expected to maybe bring some much needed youth to a team of stars, and then it didn't work out like every other youth player in PSG.
Mm.
But he went to Barcelona, so there was definitely still hope, but apparently that didn't really happen. Great to see him back in Ligue. Maybe that bit of a feeling that he failed somewhere despite the talent will give him enough mental strength to bounce back. Yeah,
Mm.
interesting choices. I
And
like all those choices,
and
Baptiste.
and he's got Furlan at Auxerre, so he's not. He's not. I know they're promoted, but he's not moving to a side that's just gonna park the bus and
Defend, yeah.
and not try anything. I think they'll try and they'll genuinely try and play. So I'm hoping he'll get some game time. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a matter of if he's ready to actually play in Ligue 1, which we're not in the
Mm.
locker room, but the talent that we've seen at least is enough to shine on the French fields. The third question from Molo was which summer signing will have an impact for their new team? I'll let you start on this one, Baptiste.
Alexandre Lacazette is a clear one. He seems there's a reason why he's been brought back to Lyon even more than Tolisso. I think it's because he's still he's free of injury worries, unlike the ex Bayern Munich man. He's hungry. He gets the, he gets the club. He's been a leader both at Lyon and at Arsenal when he was captain. And so he's been brought in not only to deliver on the pitch, but also off the pitch and in the dressing room. And so I know he's 31. It's not my type of signings normally. I'm not a huge fan of over 30s coming back to their old club in a bout of nostalgia, which you could look at it that way. But actually, he's a smart player. He's a good guy. I think I think he will have a positive impact on you, and he's still a good player. So certainly for Ligue 1. So that he's the main one I had, and then I've got I've got two more. One which is Jimmy Cabot at Lens.
Mhm.
So difficult to fill the boots of Jonathan Klaus, who's moved to Marseille. But for 2 million euros, he sounds like a perfect
Still.
signing, and he'll fit right into that side. And he was really impressive, certainly in the first half of last season for Angers before it sort of unraveled there. So, and he's still what 26, 27. So he's got room to grow, and Ez is a good manager at Lens. So I've got um I've got faith that he'll have a positive impact. And then last one is Pierre-Lys Melou at Brest. No surprise that it didn't really work out at Norwich. I thought he played okay whenever I watched him play, but Norwich were always battered during the
Mhm.
season. So he had a reasonably good season, but certainly for Ligue 1, he's a good player. He's a very dynamic midfielder who can play a variety of roles, and I think is that flexibility that Brest needs. So a really smart signing for me from Brest.
Yeah, and he's bringing experience in the midfield that maybe lacks a little bit of it, and could help develop those players. I agree with the three. Of course, what I liked, I guess, about Lacazette, of course, is he had the armband at Lyon before. He's worn the armband in Arsenal as
Mm,
well. So then him coming back to Lyon, you can already know that he should have plenty of goals, and he should be a real leader for a team that can use it. The Cherki, the Toko Ekambi, the Kadewere, they might have missed that leader. And if Lyon
mm,
managed to keep Paqueta, I think this combination Paqueta and Lacazette can be deadly. And for Lens, I think Cabo also has the corridor open for him. During the preseason, they tried to play Frankowski on the right and Machado on the left, and Frankowski was less impressive on the right than he's been last year on the left. So it's all here for the taken
mm,
for Cabo. I had Lacazette as well, and then I had another player from Lens and one from Paris Saint-Germain. From Lens, I had Luis Openda, the
mm,
former striker from Bruges and Vitesse Arnhem, because I think that his combination with Puxa, but just the way he plays by himself, I think he's bringing another type of striking menace, striking threat, I should say, for Lens. Last year they had Kalimwendo, who was quick, but very much a box striker who sometimes would drop a little bit, but not necessarily playing too much behind the defense. And then Sotoka, Ganago, all sort of the same type of striker who could be a 9.5 or a winger, but not necessarily somebody who likes to take the space. Openda is that very fast striker who's going to try and go behind the defense, who's going to help Francaise in his counter-attacking style sometimes, and who's going to be very precious against the better teams because they'll be able to counter-attack quick, but also going to be good against the teams who like to park the bus because he's also technically quite sound, and he's got I think he already has a couple of goals in preseason, one against Inter, namely. So it's an okay start. And then the other one that I mentioned is Vitinha, the midfielder coming from Porto and who signed at Paris Saint-Germain. I think he started every single preseason game. Apparently, he's basically Verratti, but the defending version of Verratti, but the same kind of technique, ball to feet, and a great ability to alternate short and long passes. So I think Paris Saint-Germain might have found themselves that missing piece that they've had since that they've been looking for since Thiago Motta left. Completely different register, of course. He is not going to be replacing Thiago Motta per se, but he's going to bring physicality, like the not scared to renew the efforts, and also the technicality that Verratti has. I think, Verratti, for all the shit that we talk about him, about his lack of effort, etc., he's still a defender that likes to press, a midfielder, that likes to press, and that can defend. It's too bad that he only does that half an hour per game and only half a season. But having them two together might make Paris Saint-Germain a pretty serious contender, at least in my opinion. But again, there was so many signings this year in Ligue 1.
And he's good insurance for if Verratti breaks down,
exactly,
has his injuries, has his niggling injuries. He's good insurance. So, but they started together, I think, yesterday against Nantes. So that might be a sign of things to come, which is great.
And today the word is that Gay is going to Everton. Everton, right?
Yeah, Everton.
Everton, yeah. That Wijnaldum's going to Roma. Paredes is going to Juventus. So clearly, Vitinha, Verratti will be the midfield.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next question. Here we go. It's on the screen there. Adam Gipki, my friend who's at the Italian Anglo pod, asked us 3 questions as well. Galtier at Paris Saint-Germain, can he change the culture at the club, or will he be moved on if results fall? Answer the second part of the question first, Baptiste. If he doesn't get results, how long is that going to take the fans, the Campos and Nasser to politely show him the door?
I think it depends what we mean by a fall in results, right? I think if he stays within the top 2, then I don't really see him as being let go at the end of the season. I think he's been given a 2-year contract. They acknowledge that with the World Cup and the end of Messi at the end of the season, probably the end of Neymar, getting rid of a lot of squad players, I'm hoping that they realize it's a transition season and he's got Campos's backing. So I think unless it's something dramatic, which for PSG is outside the automatic Champions League spots, then I don't think he'll be moved on.
They've kept Pochettino and he had lost 6-7 games in his first tenure, the last 6 months of last season. So yeah, I think I've always thought if he loses 3 games between now and the World Cup, he's out. But the more I think about it, and more I hope that Paris Saint-Germain knows it's a transition season. But of course, it's going to take a wrong word from a player or from Galtier to make something terrible. I think if I was a gambling man, I'd say that if we hit 3 losses between now and the World Cup, Galtier might not be here in December.
Yeah, I'm a bit more I'm confident anyway that they're not going to have a terrible start to the season. I think they'll be good, and certainly this is all PR anyway. But so what we're seeing at the start in terms of how he gives interviews, how he interacts with the players. Certainly, that seems to be going well. And yesterday is always a curtain raiser to a season, so you can't trust too much into it. But by all accounts, they were very impressive and very fluid, especially the front three. So he's made a choice with a change of formation that, based on what we've seen, which is only yesterday, seems to bring the best out of his players, and they've bought sensibly to fill the gaps. So I I'm confident that they'll do well, and I actually think, like I said, the association with Campos and the fact that Campos looks like he's being given the real football powers at the club, because we haven't heard anything from Nasser Al Khelaifi, which is a good thing. Makes me confident that even if they finish second, that he'll be kept on and be given another year. And that's also because he's got a 2-year contract. So again, if you do Champions League every year, they might as well sack him for free at the end of 2 years rather than incur more costs.
Yeah, and he's technically, or at least that's what media and pundits would say, technically boxing over his weight there at Paris Saint-Germain, which we don't see often in those kind of big clubs. I think the other only examples that we can have of a coach that technically hasn't proven himself, I mean, the guys won Ligue 1 still, would be like a Di Matteo or rare are the coaches who have come to that of a big club without having proven somehow, somewhere that they deserved it. So that's going to be added motivation for him. And to you touched on it already, the change of the culture, and to answer a bit more to Adam on that one. You can see a little bit already that has changed. It's I don't know if it's less fun, but it looks a bit more serious. And it was funny to see during the I want to call it the charity shield, during the Trophée des Champions, that I think at one point there's an image, the tweet is going around the tweetosphere. You see Neymar sort of pressing and deflecting a pass from one of the non-defender, and Comboire asks him the question, looks at Neymar and goes, "Oh, so now you defend," and then gives a complicit look at Galtier on the other bench. So there's probably a bit of that. I mean, every single player wants to impress the new coach, right? Especially when he's backed up by the sporting director. But we know how Galtier is, and we know that more than anything, he wants his team to win, and you know that to win, they all have to buy in into the same way of playing football. So hopefully it'll work. And I mean, he's also, I think he's also the kind of coach that won't be too scared to make cuts if it doesn't work out, because he knows that if he doesn't make it, he'll be the one cut. So Neymar better play the way Galtier wants and play if he wants to keep his spot.
And I think there's a few things as well, right? So wherever he's been, I know he's every club he's been, Galtier has been liked by his players. That's not a coincidence.
Sure.
That's a smart man manager there. So surely a lot of what he's done at previous club will work at PSG. And then I think what I've quite liked is that he's got in all sort of the public interactions that we've seen, the interviews, he could have come in and been very defensive and been very sort of having a bit of a fight, war of words with journalists who were sort of saying, is it a big step for you? Kind of, you don't really belong there. And he's been very open about, trusting himself, having good interactions with the players, that there's good work that's been done before him, and he's going to bring some stability and continuity. He praised Pochettino yesterday for saying, well, we were in the Trophée des Champions for a reason, because we won the league, and that can't be discounted. And some good hard work was carried out before me. So I think that's also kind of helped pacify the whole atmosphere. I think if he'd gone and been really defensive with sort of a little league manager's mindset, then things would turn around a lot more quickly if things start going wrong. Whereas in this case, he's just willingly embraced it. And I think that rubs off on the players and the staff and the atmosphere at the club. So I feel there's a lot more enthusiasm about Paris at the start of this season that there was even at the start of last season. So that's to his credit.
Yeah, true. And we know how great of a manager he is, and all his peers celebrate him as one of the best French managers at the moment. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what he does at Paris Saint-Germain, and if he does bring them to win the Champions League, then my people in the south of France will be able to say that it was somebody who was born on our shore that brought the Champions League to the capital. The second question from Adam was, Fonseca, Lille, can they get into the top four? Well, we disagree on that one. We've seen it during the pod. Spoiler alert, if you guys are listening to all the pods that are going to drop this week, me and Baptiste had Lille at different position in our prediction. I'll let you start on that one, on Fonseca.
So Fonseca, I don't know enough about him, in all honesty. I know of things that he's done. I never really watched Roma, but I did a little bit in the Europa League in his first season. And by all accounts, in Serie A, his team played quite good football, quite attacking football. And he was doing the same at Shakhtar Donetsk in the 3 years before, where he was winning everything and actually being really competitive in Europe. So there's a good manager there. The rest of his career is a little bit meh, and very unstable. But he's highly, he was highly touted. There was talk about him going to Tottenham before they chose Conte. So, he's coming in with a big reputation. I don't know enough about his work to be truly definitive about what he'll be able to bring and how it will work. But and where we disagree is, no, I don't see them going in as top four. I can't be, I don't have a magic 8 ball. It could happen. There's a world in which it happens, and it's not such a distant world. There is some good talent there. They might have one of the best striking partnerships if Bayo and Jonathan David click. So there's something to look forward to. But I think the rest of the squad just feels a bit average, frankly. And he'll have to rejuvenate them quite quickly.
I think top four would be ambitious. I think, Paris Saint-Germain, Monaco, Lyon, Marseille, Rennes, even Lens are probably going to be on their way. But I still think that they would finish in that fifth, sixth position because you name them, Bayo, David, Bamba potentially jumping back. A smart move to get Jonas Martin in the middle of that park that needed a bit of help next to Benjamin André. So far, Renato Sanchez is still here, but apparently he's going to Paris Saint-Germain between now and the end of the month. But I think, same as you, we don't know Fonseca enough to really talk about how he's going to make this team play. He's got a nice resume just because he went to Roma. But whatever he did everywhere else, we don't know if it applies to Ligue 1. It didn't apply successfully at Roma, at least. He did okay, but he didn't. I guess he didn't move crowds. He was liked from what I could read from fans, etc. at Roma, but he just didn't get the success that they thought they deserved with the team that they had. It'll be interesting to see what he does. I don't think it's a game changer. I don't think he's really known as this this visionary coach. I think he's just a coach who works well and who has the respect from his teams. And he'll do Lille a world of good. We know the situation they are since Gerard Lopez left. So having a coach that is serious and that can play with the team that is given to him rather than make all sorts of demands is probably what Les Dogs needed. The last question that Alan had for us was prospects on the new clubs coming up. He said that Troyes looked interesting. I mean, Troyes has been in here for just over a season now, the City Football Group. We both think that Troyes will struggle to stay in Ligue 1 in a season where 4 teams are going to get relegated. That'll be the subject of the first pod who's going to drop this week on the season previews on Breaking the Lines. Teams that could be impressive coming up. I think we probably both on the same boat there. Toulouse might do something nice. Ajaccio and Auxerre might be a bit too tender to really settle in Ligue 1. But Toulouse, with their data-driven transfer, with players like Branco van der Boomen and Spearing and the Jaeger, who have shown a lot of talent in Ligue 2, we think can be the team that can be a surprise, that can be troublemakers, very much like Lens did a couple of seasons ago in Ligue 1. Any other team that is worth a shout, you think, Baptiste?
No, I mean, out of the three clubs, I think we agree that Ajaccio are the heavy favorites to go back down again. I'm hoping I'll be proved wrong because it's always good to have a Corsican club
Hmm.
in Liga and always good to have a club defying odds to stay up, just like Clermont did last year. But there are a lot of similarities between them and Clermont, with less entertaining and open football. Um, so slightly less likable, if I can put it that way. For Auxerre, I think there's genuine talent there, but like you said, they look a bit tender, and their manager seems to be more interested in coaching in Ligue 2 than in Liga. Even though I think Furlan is a good manager, and I think he would do well in Liga. Yeah, the favorites to stay up out of the three are Toulouse. It's a very easy shortcut to make, but they are a little bit like the Brentford
Hmm.
of French football, although a bigger club that Brentford were,
Yeah.
because they've got a not a bigger history, but a bigger presence at in the top flight. So I'm enthusiastic for them. And then for Troyes, we talked about how they've lost a few good players. That experience of staying up will have helped them. There's a little bit of chaos internally, by the sounds of it, with Bruno Irles and some of his players, but that seems to have died down weirdly, and they finished the season strong. So if they start the season like they finished last season, then they could aim higher than what they traditionally aim for, which is in this season will be 17th, will be 16th, 15th. So it's yeah, losing Ugbo and was it Igbo
Caboret.
Igbo
Ugbo and
Igbo
Caboret, yeah.
and Caboret and Biancone is that's quite a loss, but there's they also have a particular way of playing, so they'll be good to watch.
I was reading that they're trying to get Ugbo back, but are still negotiating for it. It'll be great to have him for a whole season in Troyes. It'll
Mm,
be also fun to see all those derby of the Champagne slash Burgundy region, Reims,
mm,
Troyes, Auxerre, Lyon, just south of it. Too bad
mm.
that Saint is gone now because they weren't too far either. All the derbies are going to be in this side, much less than the southwest of France, where Toulouse is a bit isolated now.
Yeah, yeah.
The last tweet that we want to answer, which three questions as well in this tweet from Dieter van Gort. Dieter, who's a pretty regular follower of Castle. So thank you for listening to us week in, week out, Dieter. The first question is quite interesting. Can Ekitike and Mbappe play together in the starting lineup of Paris Saint-Germain? The first thing I'll say is I've heard, I don't know if you have heard his interview that he gave, I think, last week or 10 days ago, Ekitike, where he basically probably was given all the answers by the PR at Paris Saint-Germain and was just saying all the right things. It's the biggest club in the world. It's the biggest club in Europe. I just can't wait to learn from Messi and Neymar and Mbappe because they are just so much better than I am, and blah, 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 which denoted, frankly, from what I had heard from what's his name, a guy who was the director of the Academy at Reims and who had Ekitike under him. His name's going to go back to me, and from his former coach, who basically compare Ekitike to Mbappe in his winning
Mm.
mentality, in his desire to always be the man and be the guy who scores. Now, can they play next to each other? I think the issue is not there. It's somewhere else in the attack in Paris Saint Germain. What do you think, Baptiste?
I think he's insurance, Ekitike. He's insurance and one for the future. So anything that he produces this season should be seen as a bonus. I think he's clearly fourth in the hierarchy between the main three, and Kalimwendo is still at the club at the moment and is someone who's apparently has had a good preseason and who would maybe deserve
Yeah,
a place as fourth more than Ekitike because he's been performing for a longer time and he's still developing. So yeah, I think everything's a bit of a bonus if it comes out of Ekitike. I think his skill set would complement Mbappe's quite well. They're both very mobile. Ekitike can lead the line as a more traditional nine, maybe not better, but is a more is potentially a more traditional nine than Mbappe. So and look, we've talked about it is Messi going to play much? Is Neymar going to play much? Especially in the
Mhm.
second half of the season. He'll get a run out. I'm quite excited about Ekitike, but I also think he'll have a year of PSG under his legs for the next season, and that's what Campos and the likes are looking at. So it's a smart signing, not necessary for the immediate future, but he'll still be able to contribute.
Yeah, you said it. It's Messi's last year at Paris Saint-Germain. So getting Ekitike now is getting him the training under the six-time Ballon d'Or to
Mm,
show him what level he needs to achieve if he wants to get to where he wants to get, and then potentially for next season with or without Mbappe, that'll be a pretty exciting pair up front.
mm,
Yeah, I think they can play together. I agree that Ekitike might be a more natural number 9, but he also likes to play where Mbappe usually plays. So he could actually offer Mbappe a bit of rest because he plays almost every single game. Mbappe, and also it's potentially probably not going to the World Cup Ekitike, so he'll be a bit more fresh before and after the tournament. And then if Mbappe decides to try and become a number 9 again, because rumors in the offseason was that he was the new sporting director at Paris Saint-Germain. At least he's got Ekitike to put under him. But yeah, I think Ekitike is there to relax this season, to take what he can take, to try and remove Mauro Icardi from all the team sheets, and then hopefully to get a shot at a few games. Maybe the
mm.
French Cup is his to win for Paris. The second question is one that I already answered, the main title candidate. For Paris Saint-Germain, of course, we said Monaco and Lyon. And speaking of Lyon, the last question from Jeter is about Tolisso and Lacazette. So we quickly touched on Lacazette, but we'll develop a bit more. What are the expectations for the return of Tolisso and Lacazette? I'll just say 20 goals for Lacazette to put that to bed. That's what I think that's going to happen for Lyon. What's your feeling about what they can produce in terms of number and I guess importance of those two former gone back home?
I think it's a question of identity and leadership. That's why they've been brought back, because I don't think there was a huge necessary gap in midfield for the need likes of Tolisso to slot in straight away, and for Lacazette, I know I know everybody seems to criticize him at Lyon, and he can be clumsy and he can miss a few open goals, but Moussa Dembele had a good had a good objectively good season last year, and certainly seemed to actually care, although
Mhm.
OL fans seem to be revolted at the idea that he might want to run down his contract until the end of next year, which I would always encourage a football player to do. But was there an actual need in terms of competitiveness to have Tolisso and Lacazette? 50-50 on that. I mean, are they objectively better than the alternatives at the club? Can you say a definite yes?
It's even
I'm not.
maybe a chance that it backfires, right? Because getting
Yeah.
Tolisso, say Tolisso performs, potentially you're removing minutes from a guy like Akre.
Yeah, I mean, the issue I have with the signing of Tolisso is that they are so stacked in midfield that they should have unloaded first before bringing somebody like Tolisso, who's probably on big wages. But at the same time, he's 27 and he's brimming with talent, and he's a world champion for a reason. So it's also potentially a no-brainer. I just, with both those signings, Lacazette lesser because he's operational straight away. I'm sort of sitting on the fence a little as to whether those are good ideas or not. But we know what they've been signed for. It's to provide leadership, especially to the academy graduates, and there are still many. We talked about Luqueba, Gusto, but there's Elarouche, Da Silva, Barcola. A lot of these guys. There's the young right back. Is it Lomani? Right back, Lomam.
Can't remember his name, but yes.
Yeah. So that makes sense. It's good for those young guys to have somebody to look up to as an example who's gone through the same thing, and they're still young players. So that's it's it's a smart policy. As to the big risk is, like I've said, Tolisso is constantly injured. He's barely played in preseason. I'm not even sure he's set a foot on a pitch at the moment, and he has a troubling injury in history. And Lacazette is 31 on a big contract, and it's barely played over the last 6 months. So, uh, is it? Do I expect it to be positive? Yes, I think as a whole, probably. But it could. There's also a world where it turns ugly for everyone involved.
Yeah, true. And he also did feel like Jean-Michel Aulas wanted to bring his boys back for the famous DNA more than Peter Bosz went into the office and was like,
Yes.
those two guys that were formed in Lyon, they're perfect for my football style. Bring them back.
Yes.
So yeah, it'll be interesting
What-
to see
what-
how they fare. But they are, as you said, they are both former internationals. Tolisso was playing a fair bit with France when they won the World Cup. Lacazette has had a chance but didn't really stay in the blue shirt. And both players that are going to bring a lot of experience. I do think that Lacazette will have a pretty big start. I predict a brace this weekend. I'll just go ahead and say it.
Wow,
I think
straight away, bam.
he'll score twice to start, just to tell everybody that he's back, and then after that, who knows if he can keep it up. Technically, there's a spot at the World Cup for him if he really shines with Lyon. So, who's
No, that's not happening.
who's behind Benzema and Mbappe? Ben Yedder, but if Ben Yedder doesn't perform early this season like he did last year, and Lacazette comes here and score 10 goals in the first part, he'll ask questions of Deschamps unless Deschamps goes back to his first love, André Pierre Gignac. I mean, Olivier Giroud. Who knows? Who knows who'll make it? Anyway, that's those questions. That's those Twitter questions that we've answered. Thanks, Jeter. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Molo, for providing us with a bit more to talk about. As I said, 4 episodes are dropping this week before Ligue 1 finally starts again on Saturday night. I can't even remember what the first game is. Monaco.
It's the first game is Lyon-Ajaccio on Friday.
Lyon-Ajaccio is exactly what I was going to say. No, so and then 2 goals from Lacazette against Ajaccio, which actually is pretty fitting.
Yeah, should be
Yeah,
possible.
right. It's probably the team that you want to play first. So yeah, 4 episodes will drop. The first episode will be about the teams playing to survive relegation. The second one about the team that we expect finishing mid-table. Then one for that 5th to 8th place. And of course, the top 4 is what we'll finish with. Stay tuned, listen to them. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about this episode where we answer those questions. Go ahead and check out Le Classic Pod. Those threads, Baptiste, are phenomenal. And thank you so much for giving us all your insight on French football. It's a great read. Go ahead and check them all and ask Baptiste some questions. Just tell him things that he doesn't know. Just put him in a pickle here and there about the clubs that you support. Baptiste, thank you. Thanks so much for giving me a bit of your time again.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a blast.
And I hope that we'll do another one soon. Now that Ligue 1 is back. Thanks, everyone.